In the heart of Bern, Switzerland, a young man named Albert Einstein felt the weight of a world that didn't understand him. Fresh from university, the air was thick not with promise, but with the sting of rejection. His mind, a universe of swirling ideas, was seen as a cluttered room. He found work as a clerk in a patent office. A mundane job, examining the inventions of others. Day after day, he sat at a simple wooden desk, the ticking of the clock a constant reminder of the grander clocks of the cosmos he longed to study. The words of his former professors echoed in his quiet moments. Too disorderly. Lacks discipline. They saw a student who struggled with rigid memorization, not a mind that danced with the fundamental questions of existence. Their doubt was a shadow he could not seem to shake. He wrote letters, seeking positions at universities where he could pursue his true passion, physics. But the replies were always the same. Polite, formal, and final. Each no was another brick in the wall the world was building around his dreams. His home was a tiny apartment, humble and filled with more books than furniture. It was a sanctuary, but also a cage. Here, the silence was loud, filled with the unspoken fear that perhaps his critics were right. Perhaps he was destined for a life of quiet obscurity. But then, night would fall. And with the darkness came the stars. From his small window, Albert would gaze into the infinite, and the walls of his apartment would melt away. The universe was calling to him, a silent symphony only he could hear. He would turn from the window, his eyes alight with a fire no rejection could extinguish. He'd grab a pencil, a scrap of paper, anything he could find. The mundane world of the patent office would vanish, replaced by the elegant language of mathematics. He scribbled equations that seemed wild, nonsensical to anyone else. They were not for a grade, not for a professor's approval. They were questions posed to the universe itself. He wrote about light, about time, about the very fabric of space. In these moments, he wasn't a failed student or a lowly clerk. He was an explorer, charting unknown territories of thought. His small room became the cockpit of a vessel traveling at the speed of light, and his mind was the map. He paused, looking up from his work, his gaze drifting back to the window. The city was asleep, the stars were bright. And then he noticed something odd. A faint, shimmering outline in the reflection of the glass, a figure that was not his own. The figure was calm, an older man with kind eyes and a familiar wild shock of white hair. It was a ghost, a dream, a trick of the light. It wasn't menacing, but serene, as if it were a natural part of the starry night. A voice echoed, not in the room, but in Albert's mind. It was quiet, like rustling paper. They see the tangled yarn, the voice whispered, but you see the thread. You see how it all connects. Albert didn't move, barely breathed. Every path they told you was wrong, the voice continued, every failure is a necessary step. A mind like yours cannot walk in a straight line. It must wander to discover what lies beyond the horizon. The figure in the glass gestured towards the city clock tower, visible in the distance. They see time as a rigid ruler, ticking forward second by second. But you feel it, don't you? You feel it bend and stretch, like a river flowing through the cosmos. Do not fear the questions that no one else is asking, the mentor advised. Those are the only questions worth answering. The world will catch up, but it needs a light to follow. Your light. Then came the challenge, the heart of the matter. You have a choice, Albert. You can listen to their world and its expectations, and let this fire dim. Or you can trust the universe that speaks within you. Trust your instincts. As quickly as it had appeared, the figure began to fade. It wasn't vanishing, but rather dissolving back into the starlight, its form becoming one with the constellations in the window pane. The kind smile was the last thing to disappear. And then, he was alone again. The room was silent, save for the faint hum of the city. Was it real? Had he imagined it all? He looked at his hand, then back at the empty window, the voice still echoing in his thoughts. His eyes fell upon the scattered papers on his desk. The wild equations. The disorderly thoughts. Before, they might have seemed like symbols of his failure. But now, he saw them differently. He saw them not as tangled yarn, but as a single, beautiful thread. He thought of the stern professors, the rejection letters, the rigid ticking of the office clock. The weight of their expectations felt heavy, a well-trodden path that promised safety and acceptance. It was the path of least resistance. Then he looked back at the stars, still visible in the pre-dawn sky. He thought of the winding river of time, of light as a constant companion. This was his path. It was unseen, unproven, and walked alone. But it felt like home. A small smile touched Albert's lips. The doubt, the shadow that had followed him for so long, began to recede. The world could have its straight lines and its rigid rules. He would follow his curiosity, wherever it might lead. As the first rays of dawn painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, Albert picked up his pencil. There was a new energy in his hand, a new clarity in his mind. The night had been long, but the morning brought with it a universe of possibility. He began to work not just with numbers, but with images in his mind. He pictured himself riding on a beam of light, chasing after it, wondering what the world would look like. These were his thought experiments, his unique way of seeing. The patent office was no longer a prison. It became a quiet place for his mind to wander. While examining gears and levers, he was secretly rearranging stars and bending the fabric of space-time. His mundane reality fueled his extraordinary imagination. With this newfound trust in himself, something incredible happened. In a single year, this unknown clerk, this supposed failure, would write 4 papers. 4 papers that would become the foundation of modern physics. He didn't just knock on the door of science, he remade the entire house. On one of those papers, a simple, elegant equation, E equals mc squared. A key to unlock the secrets of the stars, the power hidden within the heart of every atom. An idea born not in a prestigious lab, but from a curious mind that refused to be silenced. Slowly, the world began to listen. The letters he received were no longer rejections, but invitations. The professors who had doubted him now cited his work. The light he had nurtured in solitude was beginning to illuminate the world. He never lost that childlike wonder, that spark he found while staring out his apartment window. He showed the world that the greatest breakthroughs come not from following the map, but from having the courage to explore the wilderness of what we do not know. And perhaps, in some strange loop of the river of time he so beautifully described, he became the gentle voice in the glass. A reminder to his younger self, and to all of us, that every journey of discovery begins with a single, crucial step. The step of trusting your own unique way of seeing the world. To believe that your failures are not endings, but lessons. And that your curiosity is not a distraction, but a compass pointing toward the extraordinary.